Will you join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll try and get to the first sentence. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Yes, we do have a couple of addendums. Letter C, informational but does not require any connection with school presentations and artwork by Lingo Program School. Under new business, recommended action. Number 3, O, consider and accept the resignation submitted by a certified staff member. And this is Heather Milligan from CMS English teacher, effective at the end of the 2020-2021 school year. And also additional letter P, consider and approve recommendations for 2021 semester. Recommendations to approve nursing and a final elementary summer school principal and secondary.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the thank you, Patrick. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All those in favor of adopting the agenda with the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? With any abstentions? The agenda is adopted. Okay, on to section C, number 1, 2021 Goshen County Rec Board allocations. And I have members of the committee. Maybe there's about that meeting and how about it. There's information on page 6 of the packet.
So this year, we were actually, funds available were $219,323, and request actually was $276,000. We had 17 applicants. Of those 17, we were able to actually fund 15. 2 of them, one of them actually at the last minute actually retracted their application. And you know, we were able to actually cover most of them, and we did have one that actually was they conceded to actually go with half. So really, we have a balance of 1,129.37 left over. The meeting, we had it in person. There was only a handful that actually attended to actually speak on their request. But for the most part, you know, those that did attend, you know, they gave good summaries as to what their activities were going to be. So I don't know, is there anything else either of you wanted to actually add?
It was just nice this year to come a little bit closer. Last year we had like double the request as we did have money, and so it was so nice to be able to come to a little bit closer to providing the needs.
Well, thank you for all 3 of you serving on that board and for you know, working with these groups so we can continue to have some quality recreation for our youth and our citizens. Item 2, reports by the student representatives. I think Ms. Coxville was going to join via Zoom. I'll let her go first since she's not here. If she's here, if she's.
I did not see her on.
Okay.
But Kind Stokes.
Okay.
Here we go. Wait, no, never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Stokes.
So can I share screen?
Yeah, go for it. You had me messed up there. Wait a second. Oh.
So we received an email. Oh, it's not on. Okay. We received an email a couple of weeks ago with a series of questions that we were asked to answer to provide you some information with what the student population at Torrington High School thought for just some recommendations for the budget. So the first one was about tax increases, and most of the students did not know. They just said maybe, and less than half said yes, and less than half said no. So honestly, they don't have like a strong opinion either way. These were the kinds of taxes that Mr. Christensen, I didn't have information on this, but he said this is what the legislature was talking about, was income, property sales, and severance taxes. So I offered these in a survey, and that was just, I had 180 responses, sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier, out of the whole school, and we had like 23% said income, 25 property. The majority think sales taxes, if it was possible, some of that should go to the schools to help pay for schools. This was about potentially cutting athletics and activities. So most kids, 30 out of 180 said don't cut if we can, just don't. The most we had was esports with I think 15. I'm not honestly sure what we have going on with that. I think it was a small club, but I don't know how that actually worked out this year. Other than that, most didn't have very many numbers in support of cutting any activities. And for reducing, eliminating budgeting to activities, most would not like to see that, but if anything, reducing it opposed to eliminating it. These were new activities students suggested. Most are okay with what we have, but if anything, we'd like to see softball or powerlifting and baseball were the highest. Although I'm not sure how that would fit into the school year, but a lot were in favor of softball. Classes they think would be cut. Most said no. Some of these answers were core classes, so I didn't even put those in there because obviously you need those to go to college or just for life in general, but we had like, none of them were above 10, so there wasn't strong support to remove any of our current classes. Not a lot of support for any new classes. The most was new foreign language classes, if we could fit that in there, not just Spanish, but maybe French or German, or the opportunity to take online foreign classes. And then some suggestions, I just put a question at the end. Combine all the track teams into one, if that would be possible, so that there's not like 3 things going on at the track at the end of the day, maybe just one. Cut drug testing was a lot that came up, opposed to cutting, like before we decide to cut funding from athletics or activities. Considering a 4-day school week and limit extracurricular spending before we try to cut anything. And that was all. Are there any questions? I probably should have not stopped sharing.
Tyne, I'd just like to compliment you for getting 180 responses. That's a pretty good cross-section of your school, and I really appreciated the format of your presentation.
Thank
so
you.
Thank you for putting in the time and effort to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Fuller, do you?
I did not receive any questions. However, I can say that with the activities like the track team combining, I've heard a lot of people saying they would like at least maybe Lingle and Southeast combined. And the second one, which one was that?
40 school. or there was 4-day school week, cut drug testing.
Cut drug testing. Everyone says no drug testing, so that's a huge thing for students.
Ms. Coxville, is that you doing?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add or to this?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, first off, good evening. I caught Tyne's presentation. I had difficulties getting on Zoom. Overall, I really don't have anything to add. I think she did a pretty well job of covering all the bases. I think most of us at Southeast believe the same thing. Try to limit before you cut. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. And appreciate you guys taking the time to address those things, especially at the time when we asked that question, and it's still up in the air what the legislature was going to do, and the 173 was still kind of the main topic of discussion. So we thought it would be a good idea to get a little bit of student input on that as we move forward. Of course, like everything, you never know what's going to happen, and so now we have different things to talk about there. But anyway, I do appreciate you guys taking the time for that. Okay, item 3, information from the salary relations regarding summer health insurance premium, employee contribution for current 10-month classified employees.
I would defer to Mrs. Cates to share that information with you because I think she can do it more effectively and succinctly than I can, at least.
Last year, when salary relations convened, it was decided to ask employees to make a monthly contribution to the district for their health insurance premium. It was very nominal. It was anywhere from $0 for employees up to $50 for family. And when we did that, we had hoped that salary relations would have an opportunity to meet during this school year, hopefully in the fall. And because of COVID and scheduling in our facilitator, we just met here a week ago. And one of the things that I had as a pressing topic was that our 10-month employees are asked the same as 12-month employees to make a contribution if they choose to take our insurance. Our problem is that those 10-month employees have 2 months when they aren't receiving a check. So salary relations throughout the conversation, we're looking at a very small number of people. I think just at first glance, I'm projecting it to be about 50 people and no more than $5,600 that those people, the salary relations group felt like it was best for the district to fund those 2 months, that being July and August when they don't have a check, this 1 year to fund that employee contribution. And as part of salary relations, it was decided that there would be a plan devised for the future, whether it be asking them to make their premiums over 10 months versus 12 like the others, or asking them to do double premiums at the end of the year, or whatever may be decided. But it was very minimal, and because of the dollar amount, we felt like we hoped this group agreed that it would be informational and it would be included in the dollar amount of all the salary changes budgetarily that you would be presented with at the May board meeting, dependent upon what went through the salary relations process.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Do you have any questions on that? I'm sure we'll hear more about it as we move forward with the budget. Item 4, information on the Smart Start plan.
Yes, with our recent approval of our variance on face coverings and related to number of individuals allowed in rooms and spectators for other events, There were some need to make modifications to Tier 1A. So we'd be able to go into Tier 1A. And we had the opportunity to talk with Dr. Harris in a public health Zoom meeting that we were a part of, and ask some specific questions related to that and go with the recommendations. So what I've done in the paper in front of you, and I actually am going to also project this for those who are zooming in and those who are here. The first number of pages remain the exact same. So you'll see everything remains the exact same all through page 3. Tier 1A stays the exact same, that we would still be having screening process and what to do in case there is illness incurred at school. Those were all present prior to any changes in our variance or any suggestions by Dr. Harris. One of the, I do see that one area that did not get highlighted on the projection, but should be highlighted in the paper copy, is the first change or addition. And this is primarily one that, rather than make those changes with 30 days left and not having a significant change in format of what we're doing, was relating to maintaining our sneeze guards that are in place. Those were put up physically by maintenance. And if we would want to review that, we could certainly do that looking into the fall. But as per time and other activities that are going to be being utilized in, we have that being maintained in 1A. And then as you go down to transportation, this is again very similar to, rather than change significant times of drop-offs for students, one of the main ones there was transfer zone eliminated. In 1A, that had originally not been in place, but due to what we would have incurred on transfer zones and what might take place with parents, is if we were to go back to having a transfer zone, that could possibly change when kids would be coming home, when they had arrived, and when we've had parents already set up to where they're getting in place and where they're being dropped off. This would be something as we start the next school year that we've already talked about because of the scheduling difficulties in some of our elementary schools. We would have the transfer zone to be able to accommodate some of the schedules. And the assigned seating was a recommendation also in relation to being able to track any situation where we'd have a positive case and may need to quarantine based on that 6-foot distance. Then looking on to page 5, some other additional changes. Cleaning sanitation protocols still in place that meet or exceed the USDA expectations and state health department. Drinking fountains, this was Dr. Harris still recommending that drinking fountains, we utilize the bottle fillers, but not necessarily the drinking fountains as they were. And then I'll continue the use of disposable trays per USDA directive. We were able to eliminate 2 items there that were present in relation to the ability to bring in outside snacks for parties and holidays. And then also the not feeling the need to discourage outside food delivery that has been in place also. And then the remainder of those items going down in 1A, there is no change. 1B completely remain the same. And so with those changes, we would be able to move into 1A. One of the biggest, well, not one of the biggest, I guess, there's a number of changes regarding our activities because our activities then currently we're still screening students at the beginning of practices. That would in 1A not be necessary. Other items of note that would be coming back into our lunchrooms would be microwaves, the use of microwaves being able to be returned as normal in our cafeterias. And you'll notice there may be some other items in 1B that catch your eye that are not also listed in 1A. And so we'd be able to have those back in place under the 1A component of our Smart Start plan.
Thank you for that. And along those lines, I wanted to apologize to a couple of our groups of staff. In my little talk I gave at that meeting, I neglected to thank the transportation and our school nurses in that group of staff members, that we really appreciate their efforts this year to get to where we're at. So if you would extend that to those groups as well, I would appreciate it.
Certainly, both of those have been very important. The nurses have been extremely involved in a lot of this process, so thank you for mentioning them.
Yeah, and I do apologize for, it was inadvertently, I don't know why I didn't think it also, so thank you. Okay, item 5, school presentation by Lingo Fort Laramie Schools. And if you look around, the artwork in the boardroom tonight is from Lingo Fort Laramie. Ms. Cornelius does a good job with those kids, so if you get an opportunity to take a look, if you see any of those kids, just tell them that we appreciate it. Mr. Gilchrist, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity to share some of the things that we do at Lingo Fort Laramie. Ms. Stokes, I would like to compliment you on your technology presentation. I'd like to offer the board an alternative to that. So we now have the antithesis of that presentation. So there's a lot of things going on at Lingo Fort Laramie that I'm proud of, and I think we are doing fairly well. Always look to improve, but probably the thing I'm the most proud of is our data teamwork. Particularly at the elementary. And that was kind of inherited from Mrs. Fields when I took over her position about 8 years ago, and then worked with some great title teachers. Beth Correa out at Southeast, Miss Sims, she was with me at Southeast and then at Lingle, and then Miss Bever, my Title I teacher, she took over and have kind of made it our own. Now the data team process doesn't really, it begins in the classroom, first best instruction. We're doing everything we can with Collegio, trying to make that work, doing our best with top 10, OG, that curriculum. And with that is kind of where the intervention process starts. We create time called Flex, in which the teachers have the opportunity to look at their common assessment data, their OG data, and create that environment where the teacher's working with the kids that are struggling with the concept, but we also provide enough support with the other adults in the building and the paras to do enrichment as well. So that's kind of where the process starts. But where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, is that data team process. And on the sheet that I gave you on the backside, when we first started this work with Solution Tree, or I should say I started this work with Solution Tree, I thought this was the most simplistic way to view that data team process. It was very easy for me to wrap my head around this. Convergent assessment isn't a term we use really in our vernacular right now. But if you replace that with data, that's what we do with the data team process. So you start at the top, you identify based on data, the kids that need the support. And then as you go around the right side, going clockwise, you determine what they need, specific skills. And then you go and you're monitoring that. And at the end, you decide whether they stay in, you adjust the intervention, or you move on. So I thought that was a very concise representation of what we do when we meet as a data team. And I will turn that over to Ms. Bever to get into more detail, specifically how we do it at Lingo Fort Laramie.
So how our month is set up is we'll do our K2 data, then 1 week, then we'll do our K2 problem solving, 3-5 data, 3-5 problem solving. So that's our month, and it's pretty set in stone at our building. Who's involved is our dean of students, principal, school counselor, school psychologist, special ed teacher, classroom teacher, and myself. And keep that pretty consistent. The classroom teacher brings in their data from their common assessments and their Orton Gillingham monthly or weekly spelling tests for us to get that data, and plus any social or emotional issues that they'll see within their classroom. And so from there, what we do is we break down our data. What I do is I present the most current STAR data, and it's kind of old school, but we have it on a board that has all of their STAR data for the last 3 years. And so the most current upfront for their current year. So that is in one area. We project our Ames Web benchmarking and then hone into their progress monitoring that we do on either Friday if it's high needs, or every other Friday if they're yellow, which is just between like the 25th and 40th percentile. And so we have that, and then the classroom teacher brings their information. We're kind of lucky being a smaller school, we can look at every student. We're singletons out there at Lingle, so we are able to look at every student every month, even if they are a high achieving student, and we can see if they slipped anywhere within their testing or progress monitoring to see and determine if they need any support from us for that. And then of course, we always concentrate on the 40th percentile or below. So for that, one thing that, just for an example from our data team meetings, we saw that we had 19 students or for second grade through fifth that needed extra support in their number sense fluency. So we took that information Friday mornings, every Friday for 30 minutes. I get second through fifth graders come to me, and how I designed that was basically explain what is the test, why do we take the test, how do you take the test, how is that pulling what you've learned in your classroom to your data. And so we started out with 19 students, we released 4, released another one, and we have 6 more that are just ready to show their third performance at the higher achievement level. And so we're kind of pretty proud of that. So something we'll keep in mind for next year also. And then we also just have to think outside the box. You know, we have the will versus the skill issues that every location fights. And so we just try to reach out. We really work closely with Candy from Orton Gillingham, Kristen from Solution Tree, our school psychologist to help determine if there's trauma or if there's other information that we don't know just within our classroom. So like I said, I think we're pretty lucky being a little, a smaller school. Conversations happen all the time around data. We really try to track. What I passed out, or we passed out to you, we really wanted to see that correlation between our Orton Gillingham, our common assessments, our Ames Web, and our STAR. Make sure that we're really looking at that student performance level. So we kind of created this. It's the STAR reading versus the Ames, and you'll see that they're really pretty close. It was really surprising to see how well correlated those work together for us. Kind of excited for our May 21st or May 2021 Ames Web data. Our kids work hard. They do a great job. So as you can tell, we went from just in reading and STAR from 39% down to 18. Pretty proud of that. Our math is pretty strong from 31 to 11. And I don't know, they work hard. We have some great students out at Lingle Fort Laramie.
Like Ms. Bever mentioned, we have the opportunity, we get a lot of great people in the room talking about individual kids, and that gives us a unique perspective. And it's interesting how the conversation a lot of times goes when you're talking about a kid that's struggling with reading. And a lot of times it is the counselor or is the school psych that brings a different perspective to the table that allows us to think outside the box and figure out exactly what the students need. Because some of the stuff we see is trauma informed. I mean, it's stuff in their background and stuff that we wouldn't think of if we're simply looking at the academic data. When we're considering everything, there's a lot of moving parts to a job. And this data team process allows us to dig pretty deep. And then part of this, and it's always kind of been a part of, well, it's truly been a part of our data team, but we implemented was problem solving team process. And that's really getting those kids that have flatlined, haven't been increasing, haven't been improving, and just getting minds in there and start thinking outside the box and what can we do to get these kids to grow. And that process, like I said, has always been there, but formally as the problem solving team process, now we're a lot more intentional about looking at the data, looking at what interventions we're doing, looking specifically at the skill deficit and targeting that exactly versus, one of the things they're bad at reading. Well, are they bad at reading? Why are they not being successful in reading? So getting very targeted, that problem-solving team forces us to be more intentional where we intimately know our kids. And so then we have a tendency to jump and make assumptions, whereas that process has forced us to be very formal with that. And that's a good thing. So, and I need to give a little shout out to Ms. Fleming. She's kind of taken that problem-solving team process K-12 and led the work on that. She's done a very good job. So that's just kind of a snapshot of one of the good things that we're doing at Lincoln Fort Laramie. Just want to give you guys maybe a visual of what we do with kids when we're talking about kids in the room. So any questions from you guys? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D, public forum. Being none, we'll move on to item E, number one, the consent agenda. Are there any items that a trustee would like to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is to consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5153 as presented on second and final reading.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving proposed revisions to district policy 5153, student suicide prevention, as presented on second and final reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Next item is to consider approval of proposed new district policy 5101, kindergarten readiness, as presented on second and final reading.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed new district policy 5101, kindergarten readiness, as presented on second and final reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
For new business, the first item, item A, is to consider approval of offering teaching contracts, renewal initial contract teachers, and annual employment agreements for the 2021-2022 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sussex. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving of offering teacher contracts, renewal of initial contract teachers, and annual employment agreements for the 2021-2022 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Next item is to consider approval of offering a teaching contract for the 2021-2022 school year to Jessica Hooper as an English teacher at Southeast Junior Senior High School.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approval of offering a teaching contract to Jessica Hooper as an English teacher at Southeast Junior Senior High School for the 2021-2022 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
The next item is to consider approval of offering hiring incentives for current secondary math positions in the amount of $5,000 for the 2021-2022 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Is there any discussion?
I had one, I just was needing, one little more information on this deal, please.
Absolutely. So we've posted for Torrington Middle School and Torrington High School 2 math positions. They've been approximately posted for a little over 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
No.
Are we at, right?
First math line's been out there for almost 2 months.
Yeah. And we've had 0 applicants for either position. So what we've done in the past is trying to incentivize by a sign-on bonus in order to attract some applicants to that position.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good question. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of offering a hiring incentive of $5,000 for the secondary math positions for the 2021-2022 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
The next item is to consider approval of proposed new district policy 5127A, graduation requirements, alternative Platte River School, as presented on introduction and first reading.
Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Sussex. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sacedo. Any discussion? Is Mr. Christensen available to put a little more color on this?
He is, if anybody would like that. Also, our policy committee members may be able to answer any specific questions related to board perspective, but Mr. Christensen would probably be the expert in relation to some of the wording and information shared there. Mr. Christensen, would you be willing to give a little bit of background there for the trustees and your thought process?
Certainly. You guys all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. This policy was one brought about. I have a group of secondary principals around the state. It's the WASSP organization, and we meet monthly and have some discussions. And this is one that's becoming popular. I wouldn't say popular. Boards across the state are seeing a need for a little bit of an adaptation to graduation policy in some instances. And boards in the traditional high school realm are taking this on and looking at reducing some of the requirements for graduation as something that students can apply to in more rural schools that don't have the opportunity at an alternative school. As we do have the alternative school, the kind of gave us the opportunity to propose this where it was not necessarily something that would impact all students across the board, but only those that are in Platte River School that have gone through the application vetting process and determined that there was a need there. The graduation policy does not limit any of the state graduation requirements. I believe are basically the first 5 bullet points that you see on the policy in front of you, that there are just math, science, social studies, English, and a couple others. So In addition to that, we kept personal finance from the district requirements. And the big thing here is really talking about the career and college readiness. And you'll notice at the bottom of that policy in the paragraph language, it maintains that students still got to complete a CTE Perkins pathway, which is a 3-class sequence within either one of our programs, auto, ag, woods, foods, business, that would really gear that student toward concentrating in an area and getting to a point of career readiness in one of those areas that they may be actually looking to move toward after high school. The other option there is some college coursework. And the idea behind that one is that if students are able to complete the high school coursework that the state's asking them to complete for graduation, and also complete a little bit of college coursework before they take off, that would indicate college readiness, the fact that they're already able to complete the college classes. So I think that looking at, for the most part, are at-risk students that would be troubled on their path to graduation as it is, and get making that where they can focus on the career and college ready piece and get to a point of being graduated and not cut back any hard requirements, but maintain the high school curriculum while allowing them to focus in a given area and maybe look toward a career a little bit sooner.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Do you have any questions? And I appreciate Mr. Christensen being here because I had to have him explain this to me during the policy committee meeting. I didn't understand why, when you look at our graduation requirements that are typical, why it was so much different. But he did, as he pointed out, we have the state requirements are still here. Then this allows those students with the flexibility to focus on these other career type areas. There's no other discussion. We have a motion on the floor to approve proposed new district policy 5127A, graduation requirements, alternative Platte River School as presented on introduction and first reading. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is to consider approval of purchase exceeding, $5,000 for the purchase of 1,600 Mastery Connect student licenses and subscriptions for the 2021-2022 school year from Instructure in the total amount of $18,150 funded through 2020-2021 Title IV funds.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the purchase of 1,600 Mastery Connect student licenses and subscription fees for the 2021-2022 school year from Instructure in the total amount of $18,150 funded through the 2020-2021 Title IV. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of contracting with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated for engineering services for the Southeast Schools Intercom project in the total amount of $6,700 from the major maintenance fund.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sussex. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of contracting with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated for electrical engineering services for the Southeast Schools Intercom project, the amount of $6,700 funded through major maintenance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Item G, consider approval of contracting with Asbestos and Technical Services, Inc. for asbestos abatement for the Southeast Flooring Project in the total amount of $29,350 from major maintenance funds.
Can I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Sestado. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Cates.
if I may, when the building committee met 2 months ago, one of the items they talked about was a flooring project. And so this item goes hand in hand with item H in that the flooring project at Southeast is in the secondary part of the school. And prior to being able to install carpet, the VCT tile in that portion of the school is asbestos containing, so it needs abated. This abatement would be scheduled immediately once school gets out. And then upon your approval, if the two are approved tonight, the carpet installation would follow.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of contracting with Asbestos and Technical Services, Inc. for the asbestos abatement for the Southeast Flooring in the total amount of $29,350 through major maintenance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item H, consider approval of contracting with Anderson Carpet for the purchase and installation of carpet at Southeast High School in the amount of $14,789.20 funded through major maintenance.
Can I have a motion, please? Move. Thank you, Mr. Sestado. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sussex. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of contracting with Anderson Carpet for the purchase and installation of carpet at Southeast High School, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Item I, consider approval of contracting with Anderson Carpet for the purchase and installation of carpet at Lincoln Elementary in the total amount of $27,922.24 funded through major maintenance.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approval of contracting with Anderson Carpet for the purchase and installation of carpet at Lincoln Elementary for the total amount of $27,922.24 funded through major maintenance, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item J, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of 290 Mitel MyVoice telephones and 8 Mitel headsets from MNJ Technologies in the total amount of $47,146.69 from the 2021 major maintenance budget.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Any discussion? Mr. Kramer, we talked about this a little bit at our meeting. Could you maybe
explain it?
Yep, absolutely. Our phone system, right now, we kind of are getting of that age where we're starting to see a few failures in the systems and the units themselves. And as we kind of progress, we just feel that this is going to be something that will continue when you look at phone systems and look at where we're at, and an opportune time to replace those with a newer, updated system to prevent any future requirements to spend any larger amount of dollars to repair the entire system if it comes to that.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? Moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 190 Mitel MyVoice telephones and 8 Mitel headsets from MNJ Technologies in a total amount of $47,146.69, funded through the 2021 major maintenance. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Item K, consider approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of a bidirectional amplifier for legal Fort Laramie schools from Wireless Technologies. The total amount of $38,149, funded through Homeland Security grants and general funds.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Sussex, can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bullington. Any discussion? Mr. Kramer, you want to talk about this one?
Absolutely. We had done this exact same project in Southeast schools a year ago, and also funded in that situation under the Homeland Security grant, an opportunity to have better access to the systems in case of an emergency situation, and allows our emergency services technicians in those cases who completely operate on that wavelength, more access and an ease in those situations to make sure there's no connectivity loss.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? All those in favor of approval of purchase and installation of a bidirectional amplifier at Fort Laramie schools from Complete Wireless Technologies in total amount of $38,149, funded through the Homeland Security grant and the general fund, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes.
Item L, consider approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of interactive boards at Southeast High School to include 9 new line interactive boards from Troxel Communication in the total amount of $20,592, funded through Title I, Southeast Building carryover, and general building funds.
Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of purchase of 9 new line interactive boards from Troxel Communications in the total amount of $20,592, funded through Title I, Southeast Building carryover, and the general building fund, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item M, consider approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of cleaning and disinfecting supplies and paper products for district buildings from Bluffs Facility Solutions for Lincoln Elementary, $8,901.90. Trail Elementary, $8,919.65. Torrington Middle School, $4,613.30. Torrington High School, $6,499.03. Lincoln Fort Laramie Schools, $8,604.12. Southeast Schools $19,580.94, and LaGrange $5,206.36, for a total amount of $60,325.30 from the general fund.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Higley. Any discussion?
I have a question. Why is Southeast so high?
What we have here is strictly dependent upon what existing product they had available. So schools were asked to purchase all of their summer cleaning products. And some of them have additional product needed for their flooring. And then they were also asked to purchase their paper products for next year, that being toilet paper, paper towel, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of purchase of cleaning and disinfecting supplies and paper products from Bluffs Facility Solutions for the total amount of $62,325.30 from the general fund, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item N, consider approval of a purchase exceeding $5,000 for the purchase of social studies curriculum resources.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Bollington. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Cicero. Any discussion? Mr. Kramer.
Just to point out, this is one of those situations that a few years ago, for those board members who were on the board, may remember that because of budget situation at the time of the social studies adoption, they were not allowed to complete all the purchase for those items. And with the amount that we have within carryover and looking in our plan moving towards the end of the budget year, it was an opportunity for them to fulfill the needs in that curricular area. And so they were able to very quickly move through that process because they have had and they knew exactly what they were needing. So from that short period of time, from last Wednesday, when we did gain knowledge, last Tuesday evening, where we did gain knowledge that we would have some significant carryover, that we would be looking at obligating those expenditures, social studies was able to move very quickly. And that's why you kind of see a unique situation for their curricular area.
And the information for that is on the first page of this additional information that we'll plug for you this evening. Is there any other discussion or question? All those in favor of approval of purchase of social studies curriculum resources in the total amount of $12,206.96, funded from the curriculum and instruction general fund budget, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item O, consider and accept the resignation submitted by a certified staff member, Torrington Middle School English teacher Heather Milligan, effective at the end of the 2020-2021 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sudbeck. There's a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the resignation submitted by English teacher Heather Milligan, effective at the end of the 2020-2021 school year, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Item P, consider and approve Diana Sims as 2021 elementary summer school principal and Dave Wendell as 2021 secondary summer school principal.
Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Suffolk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving of Diana Sims as the 2021 elementary summer school principal and Dave Kendall as the 2021 secondary summer school principal, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Item E, topics for discussion. Anybody have anything you would like to discuss? One question I had, and I apologize if you explained this before, Ms. Gates. In terms of program budgets, those, there was a discussion about how those budgets they have to be spent or something that's to be decided with them by April 1st.
Mr. Chair, are you referencing building budgets? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
that's what I
referencing?
mean. Yeah.
Okay. All buildings were asked to have their budgets encumbered by last Friday. And the reason for that is that gives us the remainder of April and May for those buildings to receive those items, get them checked in and invoices to be received, and then still make payment in June. Buildings along with that were also allowed to carry over up to 20%. That just is providing them a little bit of grace period, knowing that there could be some future reductions coming. In the past, they've only been allowed to carry 15%, but both last year and this year, they were allowed to carry over 20%.
Okay. I guess every year, I kind of get just question why, especially with some of those programs in school that are in our schools, that we don't know what some of that, they may not know what some of that stuff is going to be at that point in time. Do we typically see where it's like it takes 2 months for some of that stuff to come through and get paid?
Right now, the last year has been essentially slow. Some vendors were not shipping because of COVID. There still are some of those states where schools aren't in session. And so I still get phone calls asking if they can ship. And we have problems every year with ensuring that goods are received after the school's dismissed, because you have secretaries only working for a couple of days, teachers after their contract is expired. That's the only way that we can ensure that we know where we're going to be and ensure that the district carryover is under that 15% so that we are not having to spend money back to the state.
I just ask because there's a perception out in the public, or at least I've seen things posted on social media, which I know is kind of double-edged sword, about how not our school district specifically, but just Wyoming school district spending money kind of irresponsibly or unreasonably. So so it caused me just to think pump the brakes for a minute and really ask, why do we rush that process, I guess, by making things do with the beginning of April. And so I was just curious, I guess, just to understand that process.
Well, to clarify, these are budgets that they've had since the 1st of July. So I will start receiving their purchase orders, and come July 1, purchase orders for next year will be sent in order for those goods and items to be available when school starts. So these are their current year budgets with the fiscal year ending on June 30th.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can
Yeah.
add to that, one of the things, if we're looking at that budget presented Mr. Lashley track, we know that there's going to be expenditures after that. So that's kind of figured into that equation as well. So we have like our symposiums, different things like that that we consider when we're going through that. So there is some grace allowed with that equal six.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may also, I think that you referenced across the state, that might be a challenge also. And I think it's going to be even more so this year, as we know the financial situation that we're undertaking because of what happened just as recently as last Tuesday, where there was this feeling as I sat through Wednesday after Wednesday meeting with other superintendents across the state, where we've had this mentality since, August 1 of last year, save as much as you can, save as much as you can. And really, and then directing that same comment to principals, and the principals directing that to teachers. And so there are things within there, as you get that mindset through a school year, you're definitely taking those things. Now we're having that transfer of where we were last Tuesday, of the possibility of being able to kind of extend that to now no longer having the availability to carry over any more than 15%. And so, I don't know if this pertains particularly to your question because it was related to the building funds, but I think unfortunately we'll see that across the state, that expenditures over the next 2 months for many districts will dramatically increase due to the needs that they're planning ahead for.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, on to future meetings. There was a discussion regarding salary relations that was held on April 6th and 7th. We have a special board meeting scheduled on Tuesday, April 27th at 7 o'clock in order to award a bid for the PHS elevator replacement project. And then following that, we will have a discussion about the preliminary budget. Salary relations will be meeting on Saturday, May 1st at 8 a.m. And the next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, May 11th at 7 o'clock. And will include the salary and benefit recommendations from the salary relations committee. Now I turn it over to Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to share a couple of screens. First one, the staff changes for 2021-22 school year. And as you can see, looking at the certified staff changes there, we have listed left recent replacements hired for those. There may be situations as we look at those positions also that some may not be replaced due to long-term fiscal planning for those positions. And then, of course, classified may stay very similar in nature to having those either replaced or not replaced, depending upon the position and the conversation had with that principal in that building. So you can see we have a number of ones that may fall into either of those categories. Two that's specifically related to our bonus in the math ones that hopefully we'll see an increase relating to applicants in those positions. Then the next one that I will share has to do with our enrollment, our ADM, our average daily membership. And again, I'll get a little bit bigger on there. So as you can see, just for your color coding, LaGrange Elementary at the top, 16 in red, that is the lowest number out of the previous 3 years. To the right, you'll notice the green. That does mean there was a slight increase from the February report. And then looking at Lingo Fort Laramie High School, again, yellow, that there were above one of the years, but not all the years in relation to their ADM, and yellow in relation to the previous month. And so there was a slight decline in the previous month's average daily membership. Lingo Fort Laramie Elementary, as you can see from previous years, significantly lower numbers than previous years, but they are slightly up from last month. Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School, above one of the years, but below two of the other years and below last month. Lincoln Elementary, lower than all previous years and then slightly down from last month. Southeast Elementary is down below all previous years and slightly from last month. Southeast High School, down from all previous years, but higher than last month. Southeast Junior High, they actually were above 2 out of the 3, and they were slightly lower than last month. Trail Elementary, above one of the years and above from last month. Torrington High School, below all 3 previous years and below last month. And then finally, Torrington Middle School, above all previous years and above from the previous month. So you can see there's some anomalies there. There's some interesting data to follow along as we kind of progress with that average daily membership. And as all of you are fully aware, that average daily membership is based on our, or provides us the basis for our funding in future years. The last screen that I'll share is related to common assessment data. And if you remember back in February, I talked specifically about the common assessments. And what I wanted to point out in this one, I wanted to reference retakes in this. So here on the left side is the standards for kindergarten. And as you can see, we have 7 standards that were part of the second common assessment. Then I'm going to just kind of scroll over here. And this first column here that you see the colors are the first attempt, or common assessment 2. And so this percentage means the number of students that were proficient on that common assessment in that standard. In the 70s is green, 80, or excuse me, in the 70s is yellow, 80s is green, and 90s and 100% are in the blue. We're shooting for that 100%. The really important feature to see here on retakes that we want to see is improvement. And this is district-wide. And so we want to see from that first attempt what instruction has been occurring between that first attempt to that second attempt, and has there been improvement. And as you can see, just even due to the color of the graph there, or the Excel spreadsheet, we did in kindergarten have some significant improvement in common assessment data related to common assessment 2. And then in 3rd grade, very similar. The information related to the standard, find the perimeter of common shapes. On the first attempt, it was 84%. Now here's, in this one, we had to have a discussion, and I actually had updated it, but there was a closeout on this. You'll notice that it's the same. And so what in 3rd grade they had done on their reporting sequence was on the formative assessment, that was the first attempt. And so they actually, if I could bring that up, and I may, they actually were in the 50s in this. And so this second one, even though it's the first column, is their second attempt, and you can see 85%, and then in the 70s. 7th grade, you can see here that first attempt in that second there. First attempt for add and subtract rational numbers, 36%, which is in the red. And then it may not, we're still not where we want to be with that 65%, but on that retake, we still had a dramatic increase, and that's the important with instruction. Our goal, though, is the guaranteed and viable curriculum, and that's what we're really shooting for. So it's on those retakes is we want to see all students. We want to see 90+% of students on that retake being able to attain that proficiency on that standard. And the more times that we're kind of bringing this data to the board, the importance of it is, again, the process that we move through in reporting this information, talking about it, discussing it collegially, it becomes very important. I did not actually, I had worked through Algebra 1, and earlier on in the board meeting, the trustees approved Mastery Connect. One of the situations that we've talked about, and I know Trustee Patrick and I have talked about a lot, is the common assessment and the reliability of each assessment on those. And if it was set the bar high enough for some of our students. The Mastery Connect program, in addition to doing a lot of work with helping out collegiate groups, is designed to help teachers work through some of that questions on the reliability of the assessment and providing them a large bank of questions that are either released items from specifically standardized assessments, or they might be more ranged from open conversation questions that also then include some rationale behind what was created in other districts or other states in relation to some of those questions. So what we really want to do is improve the process around our reliability of our common assessment data. And that's why I continue and will continue to report on this information, because it's really important as board members that you're familiar with the process of common assessment. Because as we look at common assessment data, this gives us an indication of potential success either on a statewide assessment or on success in post-secondary opportunities as we progress through this. And so this information is really valuable, and you'll be seeing more and more of this, but this is just a short case so you can start to understand what we're looking at and what those percentages and graphs might mean. And Mastery Connect also has an ability to kind of have some display mechanisms in it that will aid in sharing that information to board members and to parents. And so I'm looking forward to implementing that. One of the big things with the Mastery Connect implementation will not be to put something in addition on teachers' desks. We're trying to pilot it with groups that really feel they need some assistance or they're ready. That being one of the groups that we're working very closely with, Algebra 1 right now. They had a number of new collegial members this year, and so they're at a point that they really want to take a strong look at what they're doing and implementing some things. When we first had the first meeting with them, one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize was don't get overwhelmed with it, because when they were sitting through it, there is an abundance of information, abundance of possibilities for teachers to expand on their assessment. What we want them to do is utilize the tools that they have available and be comfortable with them, but also be able to help them and not put anything additional on them. And so that's what we're trying to do through that process and our common assessment information. The only other item that I had related to my report was district graduation. We are still planning just tentatively to have each of the graduations as outdoor events. We will be, because of the variance, being able to make adjustments to that if the weather is not going to be cooperative. We'll be able to make adjustments to that a lot sooner in the week, as we will just, if it looks like Wednesday, it's not going to be a nice day. It's not going to affect our spectator ability within those going to an indoor event. So we'll just be able to make that transition a little bit quicker. But I would like to know if you have a preference on attending one of the graduations. If you let me know which ones you would like to attend, and that can be either through email or tonight or at our next meeting, because I'll bring this up too. But if we could have at least a representative group in each high school, that would be greatly appreciated.
Are you wanting to do like you did last year, three each?
I think that's kind of was actually the plan even pre-COVID, was to try to divide that up to not have requirements set for all trustees. and it worked out in conjunction with that, but I think that that would be a good plan. But also too, if we have more than 3 that are really want to be at an event, we can certainly accommodate a number of trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. With nothing else to come before the board, we are adjourned.